Scott Shepard of Scott Shepard Photography and instructor in the photo media program at Lake Area Technical Institute, and this is a overview on how you use Perfect Mask in OnOne's Perfect Photo Suite 8, which is really a remarkable set of tools. Now, before I start that, I want you to know that OnOne Perfect Photo Suite 8 is a standalone application with a variety of different tools that are built in, including a portrait retouching tool. I'll be demonstrating that in another tutorial, separate tutorial. It does a great job with black and white, and it also does masking and layers, and that's the thing that we're going to be talking about today. So you could use this tool as a standalone application and do your editing from within Perfect Photo Suite. Or if you are a Photoshop user, you could use it as a plugin and a round trip in Photoshop. And once you install the plugins, they exist in the Automate palette or menu over under File. Or if you are an Adobe Lightroom user, they also plug into Adobe Lightroom as well. So just so you understand. But in my case, because Aperture is the place where I start with my imports, and it's also my primary editing tool, we're going to be seeing this as it's used in Aperture. And I have 3 photos here, and I'm going to show you how you can apply a layer mask and then add a layer to make the photo more interesting. Now, I picked 3 photos that are really pretty easy, including a park scene in London, a high-key portrait, a maternity portrait of my son and his wife, my daughter-in-law, and then a picture taken on a small island in Croatia that is a kind of an interesting picture, but the sky is fairly bland. And so I'm going to show you how you can make all of these different and perhaps better and more interesting. And so let's start with the park scene. Now, this is not a remarkable photo, but I picked it because it's got a really pure, blown out sky. It was just that kind of a day, a London day, pretty much overcast. So I would do some adjustments to this, including contrast and levels and saturation and vibrancy and things like that. But I'm not going to do that to this picture. I really just want to show you how you can take this bland sky and put something more interesting in. And the way it works is that, and I do all my initial editing in Aperture, but I've already told you that I'm not going to do it on this photo. And we're going to right click and we're going to edit with plugin. And I have a lot of different plugins that I have access to in Aperture, but what I'm looking for in particular is this one called Perfect Photo Suite 8. And it's going to take that photo. It's actually making a copy of the photo. It's going to open it up in Perfect Photo Suite, and so there's the photo. Now, the thing is that what I want to do initially is that I want to add a layer to this photo. And the layer that I'm going to use is one that OnOne provides me. Now, by the way, you can create your own layers and add them into this software so that they're accessible to you in this tool. But for the sake of starting out, I'm just going to show you how I use one of their given layers. And in particular, what I'm looking for, I'm under the OnOne Extras menu. I'm looking for backgrounds. I'm looking for skies. Now, this is a little bit tricky, and I will guarantee you that this is not going to look quite right, but it's more the process that I'm teaching here rather than the finding the perfect sky. You may have to go out and take a picture of a sky in order to get this right. But I'm going to take this one called Skies 10 just to see what it looks like. And I'm going to double click on it. I could drag it. But I'll double click on it and it will do the same thing. Now I get this menu that says that how do you want to do this? The default is to add as a layer, and that's what we're going to do. And now it's put that sky over the picture, and it's a totally opaque layer, which is to say it's laying on top of the other picture, so it's covering it. If I go up to the layers menu here in the tool, I can adjust the transparency, and you can kind of see what that sky is going to look like in the background. And the other thing that we can do with this is that we can move the layer so that maybe a more interesting part of the sky is visible up here where it's mostly white right now. The way we do that is we're going to click the transform tool icon up here in the upper left. You can't see it, but it's put handles around this, and I'm just going to drag this. What I'm looking for here is that I'm trying to get a little bit of that blue up there in the sky. And we'll call that good. And we're going to click apply. And we're going to make that opaque again. It doesn't matter that it's not covering down here because we're not going to be masking anything down there. It's only the sky in the original photo that we're going to be masking. And now what we need to do is to reorder these layers. What you need to do is reorder the layers, and we're just going to take and highlight the skies 10 layer. We're going to drag it down on top of, and it actually puts it underneath. Now we can do the same thing here. If we click on the layer that's on top, which is the original photo, and adjust the transparency, you're going to see what that sky looks like in this particular picture. It's not a huge difference, but it will be different. Okay, now that we've got that, this is a very important part. Often when you drag the layer, the last layer that you worked on is highlighted, and you don't want that highlighted when we move to the next step, which is to make the mask. In other words, you want to make sure that the layer that we're going to be masking, and masking is just a photographic term for cutting out part of the photo. And so we're going to highlight the original photo, and now we're going to click on the mask menu item up here. It's really just a button, it's not a menu. And it will take these two layers and move them into the tool. Now it's doing some other kind of magic to this that I'm not going to explain. Now you can't see it, but the other sky that I put in as a layer is behind this image. There's nothing over here that would show you that it's there, but it is there. Now the next step is to make the mask, and the way that we're going to make the mask is we're going to tell the software which color we want to get rid of in the original image, and in this case it's the sky. So the way the mask will work is that we're going to erase all of the white that's in the sky part of this photo, and it will then let the background layers show through. And the way we do that is that we go over to the eyedrop tool, and we're picking the drop color eyedropper, and it becomes an eyedropper, and we're just going to move through the sky and pick colors of white. Now those colors are being added to the drop palette over here, so all of those colors are going to be dropped when we apply the brushes to this. Now the colors are all pretty uniform here, and frankly that's why I picked this picture. It's pretty easy to do. The next thing we want to do is tell the software which colors we want to keep. So we go over to the Keep Color Eyedropper tool, pick that, and now what we're doing is that we're picking shades of green. And we want to make sure that we get enough variety. And you'll notice what's happening over here is that the Keep color set is being populated by all of these colors that I'm adding. Now one thing that we're going to do, because we want to make sure that we get the tones that are really close to where the sky meets the trees in the image, is that we want to pick colors from there as well. Okay, there you have it. Now step number one, actually what we could do, and let's give it a try and just see what happens. We can always undo this. There is a tool if you've been very careful in terms of selecting colors, and if you've got an easy picture like this, we can click on the the drop brush tool. We get a red circle, and frankly all we need to do is make a little bit of a swipe there, and it goes to work looking for all of the colors that are over there in the Keep palette. And it does a pretty good job of masking. Now, one thing that it didn't do was the non-contiguous pixels, that is to say the shades of white that are enclosed by shades of green in the tree, for example. So what we'll do there is we're going to pick the magic brush and make sure we size that properly. And we're just going to go over the tree. That's a little bit too big. What I found is that it's hard to find the perfect size. The slider kind of multiplies. And now the other thing we're going to do is we're going to go along the edge here, because it didn't do a real good job there for whatever reason. And here's where a bigger brush would be useful. At 250, we'll just go through this and brush all of the shades of white away from the sky. And I hope you can appreciate that this is a pretty cool tool. Photoshop has a way to do masking, but it's just really not quite as efficient as this. If you ask me, there would be people that would disagree. Now, there's one last thing that I want to do. I'm going to go to 100% again. And I'm not being absolutely meticulous here, but you notice there's kind of a funky effect that's going on along the edges of the leaves. And what we're going to do is we're going to refine that by going over to the chisel tool. And it's another brush. We'll make this about 200. And we're really just going to brush the edges of the leaves, whatever it is that you're masking here. And this makes it seem a little bit more realistic. It does get rid of some of the detail there, but your viewer will never know it in this particular case because it's a pretty fine detail. And so there you have it. There you have an example of how this tool will let you put in a different sky. Now, down on the bottom, there's an apply button, so we're going to apply this. It's going to take us back to the layers tool. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click the save button. And that will save this image back into Aperture. And then click close. And if we go back to Aperture, you'll see that image. Now, we'll show you how in the next picture, how you can actually, once you've got the mask made, you can drop in other skies. This one's totally unnatural. This one's not so bad. You wouldn't necessarily know that I put a different sky in the background if you hadn't watched this process. Okay, let's try one more photo here. This time what we're going to do is we're going to take a high-key maternity photo of my son and daughter-in-law. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Perfect Mask to put some kind of a different background in here just to see what it looks like. So having done all the adjustments, in this particular case, the picture is a black and white photo. I'm going to click Edit with Plugin. I'm going to go to Perfect Photo Suite 8. And we're going to let it open up there. Now, you have some studio backdrops here as part of the tools that OnOne provides for you. Again, you could make your own textures, but we're going to start with a backdrop that looks like this. It's called Backdrop 06, and I'm just going to double click on it. We're going to add it on as a layer. Puts it over the top of this picture. If you want to see kind of what it's going to look like once you make the mask, that's what we'll show through around. It's not perfect for this picture, but again, I'm just trying to show you a process. I'm not necessarily teaching you the art. I'm going to put this underneath and highlight the top layer because this is the one that we're going to mask. And what we're masking is everything that's white here. And now we're going to go to the mask tool. Now, I have already worked on this photo, and I already have a set of drop colors and a set of keep colors. The thing that I would suggest to you on this image is that it's really important, and we're going to zoom in so you can see. It's really important that you use the keep eyedrop on tones that start to get close to the tone of the background. It's still grayish because this is a grayscale or a black and white image, but it is also close to white, and we don't want to erase that when we apply the mask tool to it. Okay, so anyway, go back to fit, and we're going to try the drop brush tool and see how we do. Red means that it keeps it. And we're just going to draw here and let the software go to work. And actually it does a pretty remarkable job of that. And because it does contiguous pixels, it did everything that surrounds the image here, but because this white space is enclosed by their bodies, that did not get changed. So we'll just use a small brush, the same small brush, and we'll brush inside, and it does erase that. And now we're going to click Apply. It will apply that mask to these two layers. It'll take us back to the Layers tool. And you'll notice over here, the top layer is the original image, but you also see the mask. Now what's cool about this is that once you've got the mask made, and by the way, if you turn the background layer off, you see that it's a transparent image. That's what that gray and white check means. It's transparent. There's nothing there. Now we put the background in. But once we've done that, we can actually play around with some of the other choices that we have. For example, try backdrop 07. Yeah. Now, if we've got a layer we don't like the one that I said that I picked by accident, we can highlight it. We can hit the erase button, and it will take that layer out. Now we're going to keep this background layer, the original one there. We're going to take this and we're going to drag it right underneath the image. So it's now second in line, and there's the image with that backdrop applied. And if we wanted to experiment even more, we could, well, let me show you something else here. If we click inside, it's not going to look exactly right, but what the heck. Now I picked the inside set of backgrounds, inside OnOne, which is kind of a grungy factory it looks like, or building. And you'll notice that it doesn't quite fit the image. Now it's not going to fit the image in terms of look too, but that's not what I mean. I mean that the size, because it's a horizontal image, is not quite right. And the way we fix that is we go up to the transform tool, making sure that that layer is highlighted in the layer palette over here. And now we have the handles around. We could drag it to make it bigger, or we could just go fill. Now this does a kind of a stretch on it, and I'm not sure that that's what we want. But anyway, there you have this new background put in. So you actually have the ability to take the people and put them in a different setting. This is not a particularly flattering setting, of course, for this photo. So we're going to take that out. And actually, that's the layer that I want to keep. And I'm going to get rid of the original one. And I like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this image. Now what it's doing here is it's taking this image and making a layered Photoshop file and then putting it back into Aperture, which is where we started from. If we go back to Aperture, there's the image. Now if we didn't like the way that this is toned, we could go to Adjustments and Effects. And we put a black and white effect over it. All right. Anyway, that's how you use OnOne masking tool and layering tool to do magic with your photos. Very cool. Hope this helps. Thanks for listening.